Daniel Negreanu is looking down on Jack 9 suited. He opens to $3,000 on the button, a classic small ball steal that also invites dominated jacks and queens to continue. Doyle Brunson flat calls in the small blind with Queen Jack suited, a smooth defend that keeps Negreanu's range wide and retains post-flop maneuverability.
Well, there's a lot of money out there, baby. A lot of money out there.
Go and get you some.
Troy Wiggins completes in the big blind with pocket fours for set value, and the stage is set. Brunson, holding top pair with a strong kicker, declines to bet into two players on a coordinated texture because checking keeps Negreanu's bluffs alive and avoids building a pot where he could be outkicked or check raised by club draws. The paired board reduces semi-bluffs, and Doyle seizes the lead for $8,000. From his seat, Negreanu's flop check capped him toward medium strength and draws, so Doyle's stab is designed to extract from worse jacks and to tax the clubs and queen-10 type gutters. Negreanu calls rather than raise. The flat keeps the pot manageable against a range that still contains ace-jack or king-jack, keeps Doyle's bluffs and thin value hands firing, and leverages position to make the final decision with maximum information. This river is a sneaky upgrade for Negreanu to two pair, while a large chunk of Doyle's range remains one pair of jacks. Doyle checks, signaling showdown mode rather than a polarized line. Negreanu now turns the knobs. His hand cleanly targets Queen Jack and King Jack, while very rarely running into a slow-played full house on this sequence.
Biggest hand I've had.
Quick call.
Got Jack 9.
Tough river card for the legend. Doyle Brunson running very salty tonight.
Hellmuth is looking down on pocket kings. Pre-flop, this is a classic clash between raw power and disguised strength. Tony G opens light, Mercier flats on the button with pocket threes, and Hellmuth in the blind wakes up with kings.
Raise pot.
His raise to 8,600 is a big, old-school squeeze sizing that tries to punish Tony's wide open and isolate one player. When Tony gets out of the way and...
You got a couple of hundred on and I'll play every time pre-flop. Why don't you add some more money on, Phil? I'll give you a flip every time then. See what sort of a genius you are then.
Mercier calls, the dynamic is already set. Phil has defined his range as extremely strong, while Jason has a capped, small pair suited connector, looking range that wants to see flops and play poker post-flop. The flop comes down a nightmare texture for Phil, 9, queen, 3, all clubs. Mercier absolutely smashes it with bottom set on a monotone board, while Phil's overpair is in danger of being dead against any made flush or set. The turn pairs the queen, giving Mercier a full house and freezing a lot of Phil's perceived flushes. Jason checks again, continuing the trap. Now Phil feels safer. Paired boards mean fewer flushes and more chance his overpair is best. So he fires 7,000 as a delayed c-bet that targets exactly hands like tens, jacks, or a bare club. Mercier springs the trap with a raise. That line screams polarized, either a queen, a big flush, or a bluff. With kings and the king of clubs, Phil decides to hang on and call, planning to reevaluate rivers. The river brings a fourth club, completing every possible flush and leaving full houses at the absolute top. From Mercier's seat, this is perfect. The story he has told of a strong queen or big flush is still completely consistent, and his actual hand, a full house, comfortably beats both. He jams, ripping in the rest of his stack.
Come on. Come on. What in the heck is going on here? This is ridiculous. This is what happens to me when I play in these frickin' cash games.
Now you're back to yourself. That's better.
I couldn't hold it in.
I was worried I lost you.
God, this is so brutal.
Jason's betting big here, having a pretty good idea Phil's got a premium hand.
How much is it?
67.9. Phil folds.
That's a fucking gotta show.
Phil gets away from it and saves himself almost 70 grand.
Felt like a sick bluff, sir. Sick. Or pocket nines. Either or.
God, that's so brutal. Could have been worse. If I bet the flop, I just ship it with him.
Who wants to...
Tony G is looking down on King 4 suited. Pre-flop, this pot starts out as a fairly standard multi-way situation that quietly plants the seeds for a brutal cooler. Harlow opens with ace-9, Antonio peels in position with king-jack, and Tony G overcalls with king-4 suited. From Tony's side, this is loose but very on-brand. He is in there to play pots, especially deep-stacked and in position on an amateur opener. Behind them, the blinds come along, and you get exactly the kind of bloated, almost family pot where dominated kings and weird suited holdings collide.
Here he comes. You've been quiet, Phil. Preserving your lead.
Not really. I check.
The flop texture massively favors the kind of speculative, wide calling range Tony brought to the pot. He flops top and bottom 2 pair, while Antonio hits what looks like a very strong top pair with king-jack. After Hellmuth and Harlow check, Antonio's continuation bet for 4,200 into the field is completely logical. He charges draws, gets value from worse kings and tens, and represents the strong pre-flop range he had by flatting the raise in position. Tony's raise to 15,000 is the key inflection point. With 2 pair on a coordinated board, he wants to punish exactly hands like Antonio's, forcing them to pay a premium to continue. The raise size is big enough to thin the field and make life uncomfortable for single-pair hands, but not so huge that it blows them off. Hellmuth and Harlow correctly get out of the way. Antonio, holding top pair with a strong kicker and some backdoor straight equity, is never folding to a single raise and makes the call, likely putting Tony on king 10, a bluff, or some kind of combo draw.
What do you have left?
Antonio checks.
You want exact count?
No, it's fine.
And Tony's decision to check back is deceptively strong. With 2 pair on a now even scarier board, betting again would inflate the pot against a range that has improved to many strong 1 pair plus draw hands. The river ends the hand in one swing. It gives Tony a full house, kings full of 4s, and upgrades Antonio from a strong but beatable top pair to trip kings with a big kicker. After checking twice, Antonio now leads 20,000. This is a classic value bet sizing, targeting exactly the kind of hands he thinks Tony might have slow played, queen 10 or maybe a stubborn king 9 that check turn for pot control. Tony's response is a cold-blooded shove, an enormous raise over the river stab that polarizes his range to absolute monsters or air. In theory, that sizing should make Antonio very suspicious. There are not that many natural bluffs that take this line, and the full house region is heavily concentrated in Tony's loose pre-flop range. But in practice, when you have trip kings with a strong kicker, have seen your opponent check back a dangerous turn, and the pot is already large, folding feels almost impossible.
What the hell did you check the turn with, Tony? All right, call.
Antonio calls all in and sees the bad news.
I see.
Tony wins a pot of 150 grand.
Chips? The worst.
Phil Ivey is looking down on ace-9 offsuit. Pre-flop, this is a very normal configuration for a tough final table. Ivey opens from early position with a hand that is comfortably ahead of the blind's defending range and plays well post-flop in position. In the big blind, Quoss defends ace-5 offsuit. He is getting a good price. He closes the action, and against an elite but wide opener like Ivey, ace-x with a wheel card is a perfectly reasonable defend, even though it will be dominated sometimes. The flop comes one of those low, disconnected boards where the pre-flop raiser still has the range advantage, but the big blind has all the weird 2-pair and straight combos. Quoss checks his overcard plus gut shot, and Ivey fires 80,000. With 2 overcards to the board, some backdoor possibilities, and a huge image, his continuation bet will fold out a lot of total air and small pocket pairs. Quoss's call with ace-5 is very standard. He has ace-high, 4 to a wheel, and he keeps Ivey's range wide. The turn adds more straight possibilities and a second heart, but does not actually improve either hand. Quoss checks a second time, and Ivey now taps the table back. That check is important. By declining to barrel, Ivey controls the pot with what is often just ace-high and also keeps his range looking a bit capped. The river ace changes everything. Both players finally make top pair, But Ivey's 9 kicker quietly crushes Quoss's 5. Quoss checks a third time and Ivey goes for value with 150,000. The story he tells is very believable. Missed spade draws and random floats bluffing, or an ace that played pot control on the turn and now bets for value. Sitting there with ace-5, having seen Ivey check back the previous street, Quoss is almost forced to pay it off. Maria Ho is looking down on king-9 suited. She limps the button, which already tells you her plan to keep ranges wide and let him put himself in a bad position post-flop. Ike makes it 230K from the blind. That's classic heads-up logic. Punish the limp, isolate, take control with position post-flop. The problem is, Maria's hand actually plays great versus that sizing, and her call means Ike is now in the blender with a weak, dominated hand in a bloated pot. This flop is basically nightmare equity mapping for Ike. He flops trips if he's Maria, but he's not Maria, she is. He just pairs his 6. With that texture, from Ike's perspective, he's going to get called by worse a lot if he bets, and he's also repping strong, so he continuation bets 175K. That C-bet with middle pair is him kind of value protecting and denying equity versus overcards. Maria just calls. She doesn't raise, and that flat is so evil. If she raises the flop, Ike can sometimes hero fold hands and avoid lighting the rest of the clip on fire. By just calling, she keeps in literally everything he can keep barreling with. He shuts down. He checks. That check is him saying, okay, maybe I don't need to blast with just a 6 here. Let's control. Maria bets 310K into that check. That sizing is nasty because it forces Ike to start making real decisions with a bluff catcher, and it continues the story that she could just be stabbing after he gave up on the king. From Ike's point of view, her line still looks super wide. She can absolutely be floating with air and now trying to win it. So Ike calls. The river pairs the 6. That is the cruel part. Ike goes from, I have 2 pair, I'm bluff catching, to wait, I've got a full house now, 6 is full of 9s. I actually beat random bluffs and counterfeited 9s that didn't improve. His hand upgrades in his mind. He checks, planning to catch, and Maria just rips it in.
And she shoves on Ike.
I want to make a really big fold here. I think you have it.
5 seconds.
Yeah, okay. Time to look either real smart or real dumb. Ugh, that was gross.
Peter kicks things off with ace-5 offsuit. He has just called a raise of $35,000 from Keating, who holds king-jack suited. Let's dive in straight into the flop and see how Peter ended up so upset.
These two sitting on effective stacks of $2 million.
First to action is Keating, who looks like is going to open with a bet of $40,000. For me, he is just testing the conviction of Peter's hand and hoping the turn will give him a straight draw. I think Peter is putting Keating on a semi-bluff and confidently snap calls, thinking Keating doesn't have nor a set, nor a flush draw. The turn delivers a 10 of hearts, a card that brings Keating a step closer to making Peter's night a bit worse than it was. And with that bet of $150,000, Keating is making a statement that he isn't about to slow play this hand. He is either making Peter fold or bloating the pot for that fairy tale straight he is hoping for.
And decision time for Peter. And this man has made every right decision this week.
Peter took his sweet time deciding what to do, because nothing from the strong range Keating is portraying so far doesn't seem strong enough to beat him. But the straight or flush draw is always lurking behind the river.
And he calls. Pot 462,000. Keating blasting into Peter. And Keating rivers the nuts. Finally a pot where Peter does not have the best hand at showdown.
With Keating betting almost $600,000 and the straight appearing on the river, Peter now has a tough decision to make. Make sure to let me know in the comments, what would you do if you were in his place?
He calls. Keating. Cameraman don't care. Cameraman does not. Oh, Peter's taking a walk.
After getting a bad beat, Britney is now ready to try and take her revenge on our villain. And the pocket 9s that she is holding in the next hand will help her try to achieve exactly that. In this hand, Britney is again the first to raise and asks $300 participation fee from her opponents.
Oh, you lose money.
1,500 from Rayber.
Our villain holding the worst hand ever and coincidentally the mascot of our channel in the face of 7-2 is 3-betting to $1,500, which at this point looks completely like mad play.
Britney not done with this.
Now that our villain is deep in it, Britney is getting ready to take her promised revenge. She calls with the pocket nines and is praying for a good flop. The flop delivers 7-queen-8 with 2 clubs. This flop is not too good for either of them, even though Britney has the backdoor flush draw and our villain caught his pair of 7s. Our villain fires a bet of $1,200 trying to scare Britney off her hand, but we all know she is here for revenge and is not backing down.
How much you have?
After the turn, villain makes one last attempt to get Britney off her hand by sizing her up and betting her all in. Little does he know, though, she is relentless and goes all in, and is planning to beat him with 93% equity.
So, kind of a 7-deuce debacle developing here. Oh, there's the 7 on the river.
What do you have?
And he still hasn't turned it over.
Nines?
$10,700.
I don't know.
And he's going to collect some bounties as well.